Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Central. Thank you for joining us on this morning's broadcast. For the next 2 hours, we're exploring some of the big stories happening in Nigeria and around the continent. I am Olive Emodi and you're welcome to the show.
And I am Osaogi Ogbawa. Thank you very much for joining us. We always would encourage you to be a part of the conversation by joining via our social media platforms at News Central TV. You can tweet at us and let us know your thoughts on any of the conversations that we're having. You can also be on our YouTube platform. Of course, you let us know your thoughts on these major stories happening across Nigeria for the next 2 hours. Kicking off, of course, with the big story that has made headlines in the last roughly 48 hours, which is the assault of the delivery rider in
well, he's
the
not a delivery rider.
Territory.
He's a taxi driver. He was hired to make a delivery, which he maybe typically wouldn't. And in this case, he was being assaulted.
So delivery guy.
No, taxi guy. Delivery is completely different. If you are a delivery person, you already know there are certain delivery apps. Once I'm making my delivery there, I know that or I'm making a purchase, I'm expecting that they will come to my house. If it's a taxi person, it's a completely different case, which in this situation, the major issue was this man obviously said that the driver was disrespecting him because the driver said he could have asked him to come and pick up the delivery from the car. And he said, do you know who I am?
Well, the point, it doesn't matter if it was a delivery guy or was a, e-hailing rider. I just didn't want to mention the name of the company. That's why I went to delivery rider. The point is, it doesn't matter who he was. When these things happen, you don't have to walk into the person's kitchen to give them whatever it is that they ordered. You tell them that you're at their gate. They come outside, they pick up their item, and then you be on your way. They pay you and you be on your way. That's the way it has always happened. There's no... I don't know that anybody expects that when you order something, or you order a package through whatever type of delivery, that person brings it into your bedroom to give it to you, or brings it into your compound. That's not the way that it normally would work.
I disagree with that. In terms of delivery, no, I do disagree. And why I'm saying, and I know it should not be an issue, because whether or not you're a delivery person, nobody should be treated how that man treated him.
When you make orders, do they come to your living room to give it to you?
Not to your living room, but they come into your compound to give it to you.
But I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. The expectation is that when they get there, you come out and meet them, isn't it? Well, are they meant to come and knock on your door or come into your living room?
Sometimes they do, depending on where it is or the delivery app. I mean, why I'm highlighting this is, maybe, just maybe, he may have had an argument as to, oh, I expected you to bring it in, if he thought he was a delivery person. However, nothing justifies the way that he treated that man. That video was appalling, to put it mildly. It was very, very appalling to watch. It was very annoying, and it was very triggering. Triggering in many ways, because first of all, you start to say things like, do you know who I am? Which is a typical statement that we hear a lot of Nigerians make when they're about to bully or intimidate somebody else. Do you know who I am? And even, I think the most ridiculous of it all was when he said, I can make you disappear and nobody will ask anything. I can make you disappear in this Nigeria and nothing will happen. I mean, the guts with which he could make statements like that, it maybe enforces the stereotypes that a number of Nigerians have, thinking about how some extrajudicial killings have occurred and maybe continue to occur in the country.
There's that, but the major thing that I've seen in reaction to it is many Nigerians have asked that he be arrested, he be recalled from the National Assembly. And for those who are not aware who he is, he's a member of the House of Reps representing Aba North and South from Abia State. He used to be the local government chairman of Aba North as well in Abia State, and then moved from there to the House of Representatives. He is a member of ABGA, political party. And, he, of course, has from his actions, got himself into this controversy. The reactions, again, have been that he either, of course, the police have said that he has been arrested, even if many Nigerians don't believe that. But, and they mostly don't believe because of the second video that was put out where the, taxi driver was saying that when they got to the police station, he was, seemingly being accused of all sorts. And the person who assaulted him was not even invited for questioning until he eventually walked in, a couple of hours later and all of that. So when the Nigerian police says that, oh, they've arrested the House of Reps member, a lot of people don't believe that. So there's that part. There's also those who have taken it upon themselves to whitewash this House of Rep member. I've seen a few tweets this morning of people, saying that, oh, he should not be criticized or should not be punished for, for just this very slight mistake, that he's the only House of Rep member in Abia State that is truly representing the people of Abia State. It's disgusting, but I understand that people are hungry, so they will take whatever gigs that they send their way. For 10,000 naira, they would whitewash, the devil if they can. And I've seen a couple of, those reactions. I even saw someone say, oh, when other tribes have their politicians falter, then you see the other tribes take their sides, and they call them elders and all of that. And so why are Igbo people allowing, people to pull down their tribesmen? It's, again, very, very disgusting, and it's not the way that we will build the Nigeria that we seek. And if a person like this, one of the major reasons that he has reacted this way is because they do not respect the people that they're supposed to represent. They do not respect the Nigerian Constitution either. They do not respect the rights of the people that they are supposed to represent. And they do not fear any repercussions. They do not have any expectations that they will be recalled by their
because if you hear him, I mean, how do you see somebody filming you and then you look at the camera and say your name, my name is this and this, you say your name, my name, and then you say to them, report this, tell whoever you want to, basically, because you think that there'll be no repercussions. And I do think that this will be a strong litmus test for the Nigerian police to show that they really are dedicated to the cause of fighting injustice. It is highly, highly, highly degrading the way that he treated that man. You did not slap him on camera. He admitted to slapping him, threatened to slap him some more, said things like he would throw him in the generator house. I'm not even, in fact, where he may have indicted the police at some point was where he said, I'm not even going to ask my policemen to beat you. I'll beat you up myself, and then I'll throw you in my generator house. All those statements, just show the lack of regard for Nigerian people. And the fact that Nigerian politicians see being in office as a position, that you've come to exercise your freedom and your liberty, forgetting that being in office is because these people put you there to serve them. Leadership is service, it's not abuse of power. And, we're hoping that this abuse of power is being checked. Nobody should be treated like that. Nobody, regardless of what position you are in. And imagine what that man does. I mean, imagine what he does in his day-to-day living, how he treats people who work for him, people who, who have no form, who can't speak back, who can't stand up for themselves. It's very embarrassing to see. But I'm glad that video came out. Yeah, it's also important to point out the deafening silence from the National Assembly, from ABGA as a political party, and from, the House of Reps, in particular. There's, very, very telling silence, that we've heard from them, not being able to completely condemn the actions of their fellow House of Rep member. ABGA as a political party not being able to condemn the actions of their... And suspend him.
We'll probably go through a process, but just completely being silent and hoping that this would blow away tells you that, these people very likely think the same way. They don't find anything completely strange about the House of Reps member behaving that way. They don't find anything completely abnormal and disgusting about his actions. And that's very likely why they're silent. And if there wasn't this public outcry, we probably would not even be hearing these or having these conversations this morning. If there also wasn't a video, we would probably have a totally different conversation about it. Maybe many people would say, oh, ride-hailing, drivers are very rude, and so maybe that's what happened. Do, yes. And so it's I applaud the driver, for his calm and for his ability to also make a video in that moment where he was being assaulted. I applaud him for being able to at least stay calm all through. So, it's pretty clear. The story that was told at police station, according to him, was a totally different story. It was said that he came and he was assaulting the House of Reps member, antagonizing him, one way or the other. But the key part of this conversation is this really shows the way that these people think. Right. These people who are meant to be representing the average Nigerian who has left Abia State, has left Aba North, where he represents, moved to the FCT to order snail at night. The people of Aba North, I don't know that they have snail as a regular delicacy in Aba North regularly. They very likely abacha or uba or any of all the local delicacies over there. But he's moved there. He's upgraded from eating abacha. Now he's eating snail in the FCT.
And I wonder who the woman was, you know, that made the order, because she kept apologizing, saying, sorry, sir, he doesn't know who you are. Who really are you? You know, that's a question that people are asking, because you don't treat anybody like that. And I'm glad that you mentioned the deafening silence from his colleagues and his political party. If this was in saner climes, in other climes, two things would have happened by this morning. Either he would have resigned or he would have been suspended from the party. We saw it with the Labour Party Member of Parliament, Mike Amesbury, who was, you know, seen punching a man on the ground, and at the end of the day, he got suspended from his party. So the questions are, what will his political party do? What will the House of Representatives do? And what will the law enforcement? Because there's a moral responsibility on his colleagues. You know, that he's acted out of line. It's out of the code of conduct for how anyone should behave. And a crime has been committed. You can't assault people. You can't go around assaulting people and expect to go scot-free.
I mean, but what did the National Assembly do when Elisha Abo assaulted
I thought about that
lady
in the toy shop.
sex toy shop?
Yeah, nothing.
You know,
so we're setting a precedence. And if something had happened then, if at the time when Elisha Abo had done this, he got suspended immediately, you know, and maybe lost his seat or whatever, it would have set a precedent. So I worry that if nothing is done about this, we're setting a precedent that it's okay to abuse power. I mean, people already do. These people already do. You see it every day when they're driving with their entourage, their escorts on. You dare not go near a politician's escort vehicle because they have their mopos, their mobile police officers with koboko, ready to whip you and bash your car if you come as, you know, an inch close to them. So we see that blatant abuse of power, that intoxicating element that power gives to them. But they must remember, the Nigerian people must remember that they are the ones who put them in office. And I'm hoping that this case will serve as an opportunity to teach him a lesson in terms of him facing the law and him maybe losing his seat. And then he will know that you are there to serve the people, not to serve your own personal interest or to serve your belly with snails.
All right. Anyway, with that, we kick off Tuesday morning's edition of Breakfast Central. Let's quickly share with you what our top stories are. And then right after that, we share with you our breakfast headlines. We begin the news in Africa, in West Africa, I beg your pardon, Nigeria, with an investigative piece that News Central have been following. Two teenage boys from Lagos, Nigeria, who were trafficked to Ghana under the guise of job opportunities have been successfully rescued. Ghanaian security officers, following an in-depth investigation led by News Central, raided the location where the boys were held and apprehended one member of the trafficking syndicate. This development comes after News Central reported on the plea from the mothers of Daniel and Zeal, residents of Ikota Resettlement Estate in Lagos, urging authorities to expedite efforts to locate and rescue their children who were led by unidentified individuals promising employment. The Federal Capital Territory Police Command has confirmed that House of Representatives member Alex Ikweche is being questioned at the Maitama Divisional Headquarters over an alleged assault. Ikweche, who's representing Aba North and South Federal Constituency, reportedly slapped a Bolt driver, Stephen Abu Washea, during a dispute over delivery fees. In a viral video, Ikweche allegedly threatened the driver, questioning if he knew who he was talking to, and claimed that he could make him disappear without consequences. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Police Force has issued a strong warning against using the Inspector General's name to intimidate others. This response follows a viral video on X showing lawmaker Honorable Alexander Mascot Ikweche allegedly assaulting a commercial driver in Maitama, Abuja. The police confirmed on their X handle that they are aware of the incident and that an official report has been filed at the Maitama Divisional Headquarters. And that's all we have this morning on Breakfast Headlines. Let's now move back to Breakfast Central and bring you our top stories. I am Osaogie Ogbon.
Following the spate of kidnappings and missing persons, News Central teamed up with the Ghana Police Service in a rescue mission of two Nigerian boys who were recently trafficked to Ghana. Last week, our special report covered the story of two Nigerian mothers searching for their sons. Our correspondent, Onoye Mashal, now shares details of how the boys were trafficked and the rescue operation that has freed them.
It all started with a plea by the mothers of two teenage boys who had gone missing from their home in Ikota resettlement estate in the Lekki corridor of Lagos. The boys, Daniel and Zil, were reportedly lured and abducted by unidentified individuals who had promised them jobs.
One of his friends came, he told him that they are going out to go and art film. Not to know that this is the word that the man that want to take them to Ghana, that put in their mind that they should deceive the parents, not to tell the parents the truth where they are going.
Okay, on that fateful day, that was 2 weeks ago. Tomorrow, Friday, make it 3 weeks. Yes, I don't have phone. Give me the agent's number, give me the agent's phone, and write the place you are going to so that I will know in case anything happens. So this is how we are start running up and down since that very day till now.
Following the complaints, News Central special investigative correspondent got cracking, and Daniel and Zil were eventually traced to where they were being held against their will in faraway Ghana.
That was after being a guest in the hotel where the guy was working at the time in Lagos. And according to the victims, he said, whenever this guy comes around, he comes around with so much flamboyancy, and he spends a lot of money in his hotel. And so that got him attracted to this particular guy, and he then started asking for a job. And then that was how the deal was set, and he promised him jobs. And the victim himself then invited his friend. It was from Zil to Daniel. But all we know is that from that day that they left their homes in the guise of going to get the job, they found themselves in Ghana. They have said also from the messages we've had from them earlier that they were blindfolded before they got to the location where we rescued them from.
News Central secured the collaboration of Ghanaian Police Service to rescue the boys from their captors. In the process, 2 of those involved in the syndicate holding them captive were arrested by the Ghana Police Service. A total of 5 boys, 4 Nigerians and 1 Ghanaian were freed from the abductors. The boys narrate their harrowing experience.
I wanted to go back home. Because you told him you wanted to go back home. How long have you been here?
It's over a month now.
Over a month now. Victims with us here. We have 5 people rescued. The Ghanaian police have been very, very fantastic and hospitable. These are the victims that we've rescued so far. These are their bags that they came to Accra with. This is Zil, Daniel, Zil, and what's your name? Ezekiel, Bright, and Victor. And they are all adults, 18 years and above. So that's the development. We also have 2 culprits in detention that were apprehended. One of them on the location, at the location where we discovered these guys, while the other one, we had to meet him up at a different location. They are both in detention right now.
For the families of the 2 boys abducted from the Ikota resettlement estate, especially their mothers, it was unbridled joy and thanksgiving for their rescue.
Very, very excited, very happy. I'm more than happy. In fact, it's a great honor. The police people, they did a lot of things. In fact, beyond and my expectation.
What do you feel? Have you guys been?
I'm overwhelmed. I thank the government.
So what to advise other persons?
I'm so happy. Like now, my brain is now set to give us mental stress. God, everything else was not just in peace. This one here, this one here, this one here, this one here. Everyone was just start hard. We're very, very happy.
For now, the police in Ghana will push with their investigations, and hopefully the kingpins behind this sad tale will be brought to book. In Lagos for News Central, I am Chooks Ene.
Well, I mean, no words. But first of all, congratulations to our News Central investigative journalist, Marshal Onoye, as well as the Ghana Police Department for being able to crack this case. And so it was both a bittersweet feeling to watch it. Bitter in the sense that, yes, the reality is there, that trafficking is not, we're not done with trafficking, we're not done with child trafficking, and trafficking has taken several forms, from people who are obviously looking for a better quality of life because of the current economic realities in their country, and then they're promised a better life in whatever country they go to. So we see it take different forms. Some they're inviting you to come and work as house help. Some they're telling you, oh, can you drive? We have cars for you, only for you to get there and realize you're being trafficked for something else. So I'm really glad that this has been cracked. And just a reminder to us, as individuals, no matter how bad things get, we must really be careful. In the report, it was saying how the young boys were sharing that this guy who had lived in the hotel for a while was coming with a lot of flashy gifts, and he was living a very flamboyant life. We must look beyond the cover and what, all those things look like. Sometimes all the glitters isn't always gold.
Yeah. I think it's also important to, to mention that this is the second Daniel that New Central has gotten involved with and rescued in the last 2 weeks, I believe. If you remember, Daniel and David, which was a story that we took sometime last week or so, and he was eventually found. And now we're seeing another Daniel now who's been rescued in Ghana. So kudos to New Central, and of course, the work that we've done so far. And I totally agree with you. But it's maybe just a sign of how desperate times have become in Nigeria.
Right.
Where these offers become more enticing, for these young boys. Because if you look at their faces, they look like they are, seemingly well educated. So they're not necessarily, ignorant. But these conditions or these offers will become more interesting and more attractive for young men like this. But I should also use, this opportunity to mention, that regardless of what you're going through, and that's one of the good things with proper home training, that regardless of what the economic situation is, you should never forget the lessons that you've been taught at home, which, of course, should guide you away from chasing these type of offers. Anything that looks too good to be true or too flashy to be true, that training that you have at home, to be more inquisitive and to be more careful should always kick in. But we're glad that they've been found and they're reunited with their families. Only God knows where they would have ended up. I know that I believe that there are still Nigerians who are in some slave trade in North Africa, in Libya, and some of all those places. And, it's step by step, that you eventually find yourself in that kind of situation. So congratulations to them and their families. And congratulations to New Central once again.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, it's been barely 1 week since Nigeria's President, Bola Tinubu, charged citizens to embrace and switch to compressed natural gas, CNG as popularly called, as an alternative to the fuel price hike amidst worries and fears expressed by commuters and commercial bus drivers. Now, this was exacerbated by the recent explosion that occurred in Aduawa, Benin City, the capital of Edo State, injuring multiple individuals. In a swift reaction to supporting the CNG initiative, an investment of $280 million has been announced by the Dangote Group. All the well-meaning Nigerians have hailed the administration's drive to create a conducive environment for the private sector investments and to expand Nigeria's CNG infrastructure to enhance energy efficiency and drive economic growth. Now, here's what some of the experts have said. They've said that the cost of CNG at 250 naira is way too high, that it should be 50 naira per kg or 70 naira per kg. And this is because the country has been flaring natural gas since 1947. Some other thing that they've said is that unlike fuel and a needed refinery, CNG is not imported. So to be exploring this conversation even further, looking at what this will mean, what the implications are, we're joined by the CEO of Mesorvest Energy expert, Tosin Thompson. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right. There have been fears about the safety standards regarding the conversion of CNG. This, of course, has been sparked especially and fueled by the recent explosions. Are these fears founded? And, has any proper investigation been done to confirm that indeed the conversion to CNG is actually safe for Nigerians?
Yeah, so first of all, I'll say that the fears are definitely founded. When we talk about gas, when we talk about anything fossil fuel based, the history of other derivatives of fossil fuel, we've seen accidents happen. and then we've seen standards implemented and being adhered to. So when you have the same fears with, especially a relatively new in terms of this scale of execution of a product of this gaseous form, you can't blame the citizens for being afraid. But this is an opportunity really for training and for educating, and I know the government through the PCNG is pushing this initiative, but educating the masses, because CNG is a relatively safe gas compared to the other derivatives like LPG, for instance. CNG is less dense than air, so that when it escapes, it goes right into the atmosphere. Whereas LPG is more dense, because when LPG is leaking and there's a leakage, it actually sticks down. There's an ignition point, it explodes. So I know the PCNG, spearheaded by Engineer Michael Oluwagbemi, is pushing the efforts of education and the conversion that is currently going on, but this will take some time. And we can't knock the populace from being afraid, but what we could do is, as we continue to tout the CNG, the benefits of CNG, everyone will see that it's a gas that Nigeria has, in terms of reserves, a lot of, and in terms of the economic viability, a good case for usage. And in terms of safety, once the education goes around, that it's a gas that can be adopted in replacement of the traditional fuels that we use for our vehicles and even for electricity generation.
Tell us, about the cost implications. What is the average cost implication for a regular, sedan car, or a regular saloon car, beg your pardon, compared to petrol? What would be the cost implications to run a full tank of CNG, and how long would that last for a regular saloon vehicle?
So there are two cost implications, right? You first talk about the cost of the product. You mentioned when you're introducing this segment that CNG is sourced locally. There is some FX impact, but it's not as high as what you were seeing in the PMS on diesel, where we have to import the refined product. CNG is pretty much pipeline gas that is compressed. Pipeline gas meaning methane, which is all produced locally. And let me just quickly describe, the value chain or the supply chain of it, where the pipeline gas is now connected to something called a mother station, which is a compression plant, and that's where the compression takes place. And in terms of distribution to the populace, the mother station links over to the daughter stations through trucks, what people call virtual pipelines, to carry the gas over to the daughter stations. And then from the daughter stations, you feed into the cars. So in terms of cost, as the president mentioned, with the rising prices of petrol, which is well over 1,000 naira per liter, you can compare that with about 230 naira per liter per standard cubic meters of CNG. So, just do the math. If you're filling your car with 30 liters or, 40 liters, you could have significant savings compared to PMS. And in terms of the efficiency, in terms of the number of kilometers covered, CNG powered vehicles are slightly less, but comparatively equal to that of petrol. So you're looking at savings well over 50%. Now, the second cost to it, which is what we should, I think the government is looking to subsidize and drive demand stimulation, and that's the cost of installation. Now, the cost of installation covers the kits. A conversion kit will include a cylinder. So for the example you mentioned of a sedan car, you're looking about a 65 liter to 75 liter cylinder. And then the kit will also have an ECU, an electronic control unit, a fuel injector, a CNG line that will pass the CNG into the engine, and also a CNG filter. So all this, that is the bigger problem, in my opinion, in terms of driving mass adoption, because that's fairly expensive. We do not produce that locally, so we have to import the conversion kits. And of course, you see the FX impact with the rise of the dollar going up compared to the naira. So, but I must give kudos to the PCNG and the presidency in terms of driving demand stimulation, and let me highlight the word demand stimulation, because it's important to note that, at least from my experience and observing what they're doing, the government is not trying to replace the role of the private sector, but more so drive the demand by subsidizing the initial push of these CNG kits to commercial drivers, where right now a conversion process is going on where commercial drivers can actually go to one of the accredited sites picked by the CNG, PCNG initiative, and convert their vehicles for free, all paid for by the government. That program is going on. So that is the cost that we have to monitor. And I'm sure when demand is increasing, Nigerians being innovative, Nigerians being very industrious, will figure out a way to start manufacturing some of these cylinders and kits locally. I'm sure backed by the government, as they're spending a lot of money, and that's most likely will be their plan.
All right, I'm really, glad that you mentioned the possibility of Nigerians making the cylinders locally. There was an explosion of a CNG truck at Abeokuta. There was another one at Port Harcourt. And I want us to go back to the safety concerns again, because when we talk about the cylinder, I read one of the interviews where NIPCO had then said that the cylinder was not a standard cylinder, it was a fake cylinder. How do we guard against the possibility of, situations where there will be quote-unquote fake cylinders? You've mentioned how safe CNG is because it evaporates into the air, while with liquefied petrol, it sticks. But there are also the concerns of how these cylinders are going to be in the boots of cars. These cars will ply on roads that are bumpy, that are not properly, these roads, they have potholes. So should that also be something that should be considered? And also the possibility of these CNG stations, maybe being sold separately at the fuel station from the petrol station. Are these concerns that should be highlighted?
Absolutely, they should be highlighted, and actually they are being addressed by the SON. An article came out right after the incident happened where the SON mentioned the cause of the incident, like you rightly said, is because of a fake cylinder that was being used in place of the real CNG cylinder, which is extremely dangerous. Let's just run through some comparative numbers. A typical CNG cylinder is really thick. We're talking about 1.5 inches or more. This is actually the standard of a bulletproof glass or a bulletproof steel door. A typical CNG cylinder also is tested to contain a pressure of about 300 bar, while its working pressure is about 200 bar. Now, when we compare that to LPG cylinder, which by that article was the case where local people used LPG cylinder, or they tried to weld a cylinder in place of LPG cylinder in place of CNG. The LPG cylinder thickness is not as thick as a CNG cylinder. The LPG cylinder, in terms of pressure, can only handle about 7 bar working pressure. And in terms of testing, they test up to 30 bar, right? So based on those technicalities, you see the obvious difference. But I must implore Nigerians that we have to take a sense of ownership in our safety as well. And of course, as I mentioned earlier on the call, on this interview, that the government is driving this education. But let's also use some sort of common sense and research, because we are talking about a flammable product here. CNG gas is actually the safest gas when compared to the other derivatives. But when you're using fake infrastructure, it can become very dangerous.
But is it also something to point out, apologies for jumping in, is it also something to point out, that I've seen people who say that they don't know how safe it is to convert cars that were originally built for petrol use to CNG. Is that also something to point out? And regardless of how much we talk about the Standards Organization of Nigeria, we all know what the reality is in Nigeria with the constant bypassing of safety procedures. And so should that be a concern that people have, that cars which were originally built to use petrol will now be converted to CNG? Can we trust that?
Absolutely, yes, you can trust that. When we talk about the CNG conversions, you have about 3 types. You have the dedicated kits, where whatever car or vehicle you convert runs solely on CNG. You have the biofuel where it can run on multiple fuel sources, and then you have the sequential where even the kit through its ECU automatically changes from one fuel source to another. So these kits are designed, actually, if you're using a biofuel or sequential, they're designed to use multiple fuel sources. In our case, where Mesovest is converting in partnership with the PCNG, we convert petrol vehicles to not 100% CNG, but the conversion allows the vehicle to run both on petrol and CNG. Completely safe. These have been tested through international standards, and this is what SON is adopting as well. In terms of the reality that you spoke about, where things are bypassed, obviously I cannot speak for the monitoring process for the different organizations. Our hope is that they do their part, and from the approval of 88 standards, I'm guessing they will. But they are even taking it a step ahead, and they are working with the PCNGI in adopting I think the acronym is called NVGMS, that's Nigerian Vehicle Monitoring System, where kits that are converted, kits used in conversions in their accredited centers are monitored. They'll be able to monitor it in the different stations that you go convert your car. So there's a pairing that takes place when the car is being converted. And not only that, on that NVGMS, also a database is also going to be created with accredited suppliers of the CNG infrastructure, both the conversion kits and the cylinders. So these are steps that the government is taking in partnership with private companies like ours. But let's take it a step further. We also, as a populace, have the responsibility to take safety as the #1 priority. Obviously, this comes with education. With you having interviews like this, this helps out a lot, so thank you. With the PCNG, I driving the initiative as well. I think they're taking the right steps. Private companies that are in the CNG business, like ours, Mesovest, also take the right steps in terms of safety, which is key. But most importantly, individuals have the onus to play it safe, because their lives pretty much are in their hands when it comes to this. You cannot use an LPG cylinder or you try and weld a cylinder in place of CNG. The CNG gas component in the cylinder is at a very high pressure. We're talking about 200 bars compared to LPG, which is about 7. So with education, I'm sure everybody will get it right, understand what they're working with, and take safety as their priority.
As quickly as you can, please. I want you to respond to the second part of the question I'd asked earlier with regards to the potholes, that are on the Nigerian roads. We don't have the best of roads yet. So is that a concern? And, how will this be addressed, as the citizens are not the ones that will fix the roads? So the cylinders being in their cars, riding through these potholes, really pose some form of a concern, for citizens. And also to talk about the new challenges that the cars will bring. Are the mechanics who currently deal with petrol-fueled cars, are they equipped enough to be able to deal with these challenges, or will there be new measures that will be implemented in educating them in that regard?
Okay, so I'll address the potholes. Nobody likes potholes, right? Whether it's a petrol car, whether it's a CNG car or LPG car, potholes are not good for cars. So there's a lot of work to be done there. But however, having said that, on a lighter note, CNG cars in the process of conversion are actually, the cylinders are fixed in a frame that is secured in, whether it's in the boot or other parts of the car. So it actually does not move, right? It's very static. So whether there's any, bump you go over, the CNG cylinder is properly secured. So there's nothing to worry about that in terms of conversion, as long as you go to an accredited CNG conversion centers. Potholes will not be a problem. The conversion problems, the conversion process actually factors that by putting it in a frame. And please remind me your second question real quick.
So I was talking about the mechanics and, will it pose new challenges?
Yes. So to be honest with you, I see that as the bigger problem. So there are two key things I see here that the government has an uphill battle with. One of we mentioned earlier, which is the cost of the conversion itself, which I think they're doing a good job with the PCNGI in subsidizing. And hopefully when local content comes in place, we bring down the cost by producing locally. The second thing is this training. With mechanics converting, a lot of mechanics, I mean, even look at fixing cars right now, go to a roadside mechanic, you already have problems. And we've been using petrol-based cars, diesel-based cars for decades, right? So with a new technology, relatively new in terms of this scale of adoption, there's a lot of training that has to happen. The CNG conversion process is completely different from the mechanical process and electrical process of the engine. And what you see now is once you convert, you pretty much own the problems of the car.
All right,
so there's a stringent process of inspection and conversion. Right, so a lot of training has to go to.
I think we've been able to X-ray every single part of it of the conversation on CNG. If any new things come up, we'd like to have you join us and speak with us. Will you be converting yourself?
I've converted my car. I've converted every of our employees' cars. We're converting with partnership with the PCNGI. Hopefully, we convert your car and your car as well.
Oh, we'll see.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for stopping by.
All right. Now let's move the conversation away from CNG to looking at the education sector. The Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SSANU, and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions, NASU, embarked on an indefinite strike yesterday, grounding academic activities across federal universities in the country. The unions are demanding, among others, the payment of the 4-month withheld salaries, improved remuneration, earned allowances, and implementation of the 2009 agreement with the government. The strike was declared after the expiration of the union's ultimatum to the federal government to pay up its members' 4-month salaries, which was withheld in 2022.
Oh, well, the federal government had at that time invoked a no work, no pay policy when the unions embarked on a prolonged strike in 2022. In response to the strike, the Federal Ministry of Education reached out to leaders of the University Workers Union for dialogue, but to no avail. The strike is expected to continue until the federal government pays the withheld salaries of these workers. And of course, bear in mind that one of the demands that they're making is an agreement since 2009. We're currently in 2024. If you remember also, in 2022, those unions went on an 8-month strike to press home their demands, including, of course, better welfare packages. This then prompted President Bola Tinubu's administration to invoke that no work, no pay policy. But I mean, aside, the most recent, I think it's important to point out that these are issues that we've, been hearing about, and they've had for, I would argue even decades now. With these agreements that have been made, continuous pleas to the Nigerian government to fund universities better, to, of course, take the education sector better, promises being made, and, these promises also being abandoned after, the strikes are called off. I don't know what else needs to be said for SSANU or for ASU or for the federal government, but I think what my continuous hope really is that, as a new administration comes in, they will take education more seriously. We currently have a new government in office. This is, the first strike that we're, hearing about. So hopefully, the Bola Tinubu administration would have a different. I mean, it's a new government. I mean, in the last 16 months, we've had a new government. Okay. So hopefully, the new administration will take the conversations in education, different, and they'll take them more seriously. I didn't see that there was a different approach in the budget for 2024, which is a part that I would always mention. That if we do not see a slightly different structure with the way that we create our budget for these sectors, for education, for infrastructure, for health, and these critical sectors, then it almost means that it's business as usual. But there wasn't very much different in the 2024 budget. So let's hope that the approach at least will be different. That these striking non-academic staff, workers, or SSANU workers rather, will be addressed differently by the federal government. The new Minister for Education, if you remember, Professor Tahir Maman, has been sacked, and then there's a new minister now. I believe his name Murufu Alausa. Hopefully, he will take the conversations on the education sector, more seriously.
Very, very important. I mean, the nation is as good as the education, the priority it gives to its education sector. Professor Tahir Mamman, like you mentioned, has been fired, and one wonders what the new approach will be by the new Minister of Education, and to see what changes will be implemented in the sector. I think Nigerians are sort of tired of hearing of the number of strikes that are bedeviling the education sector. Unfortunately, I mean, no one is taking what they're saying lightly. It's very important to know that their concerns are valid, both the SSANU, ASU, but it's happened so regularly. And it feels like we all oftentimes start from, we start from where we stopped the last time without any significant changes being made. So it just feels like this has been called, and after a few days, they will resolve it temporarily. And in another couple of weeks, they go on another strike. So for the opting time, they are going on a strike. And I wonder if it has the effect that it should have. And this is not saying that they shouldn't go on the strike or demand for what they want. I just worry that it has now been taken with so much levity. It's become so regular. It's become the norm to see that SSANU, NASU, ASU, and NASU and all of them just regularly go on strikes. Again, not a fault of theirs, because there were agreements that should have been made or that should have been met.
Hopefully, they don't get a treason charge as well.
Oh, wow.
Let's share this with you as a quick report on these issues concerning the education sector.
The chairman of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike branch, St. Elvis Ubuago, and the secretary, Louis Aguku, say all measures adopted to get the federal government keep to its agreement by the national body has failed.
We have the right to go on strike, especially when our agreements have been relied on. And we have taken the necessary procedure to pass informations on this. We have done everything. We have exhausted every internal mechanism to bring the government to pay this money they are owing us. It's not just the formal strike.
But they should show recourse to the agreement met. Till date, none has been made. We have given several ultimatums from August that we did the peaceful protest. Till date, none has been met.
The workers complied with the order to down tools as they hang around on Monday morning. Obviously, the promise by the Minister of Labour and Productivity, Nkiru Onyejacha, to address issues last week did not succeed.
I think it's being sorted out, and I know that very soon those issues will be resolved.
Their demands are for the payment of old 4 months arrears in 2022 and fulfillment of the agreement signed by both parties.
This time around, major amongst them, not just one, major amongst them is the 4 months withheld salaries. There was a selected payment. Our sister union, ASU, was paid 4 months out of their 8 months or thereabout salaries withheld. But other unions on campus have yet to receive anything, and that is very bad.
The secretary, Louis Aguku, also accused the federal government of favoritism in the payment of old arrears.
In 2022, we embarked on a strike. The government called us for a parley, and we discussed, and they said that we should suspend our strike, and that an MOU will be signed to ensure that no victimization to any of our members thereafter. However, this is 2 years and counting. None of those things have been met. Rather, they have refused to pay us our salaries, which is now victimizing us for going on those strikes. Rather than pay us the 4 months they are owing us, they paid people who they used a court action to call off.
As always, whenever there's an industrial action, those who should be served by the workers are directly affected and denied for as long as the action lasts. In Omaha for News Central, Chinwe Ugile.
Well, these conversations on the strike by NASU, SSANU, will continue, and we're hoping that the current administration takes them seriously and there is some settlement, in the near future.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We have our papers to review this morning, and excitedly we are reuniting with Mr. Ikechukwu Amechi, the publisher of the Nation newspapers. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Olive, always my pleasure.
Well, I said really excited, you know, reunited, because last time we saw you was before we went to Abuja. We haven't seen you since then. So we're very excited to be back with you again.
Yes, I was out of town last week.
Yes, yes. Welcome back. Welcome back. Have you converted your car to CNG? Okay, let's begin with the Leadership newspaper. On the front page of the Leadership, varsity workers strike cripples academic activities. After 9 days, northern leaders kick over power outage. Once regions' challenges addressed, governors reject tax reform bill, says that it's against the interest of North. Tinubu orders immediate restoration of electricity. In other words, Tinubu said, let there be light. And I hope that we can say that there was light. 7 days to go. Harris, Trump intensify campaigns. Lagos moves to combat illegal gambling, signs MOU with UK. Rodrigo wins Ballon d'Or Award 2024. Naseni Imose rollouts made in Nigeria laptops and tablets. Former NDLEA boss Fulani Kwajafa dies at 88. Lawmaker in police net for assaulting Bolt driver. And that's all on the front page of the Leadership. Let's head to Daily Independent.
On the Daily Independent this morning, federal government to establish super grid to guarantee stable electricity. Discloses why national grid collapses frequently. Considers alternative power source for northern states. Security operatives to guard workers restoring power to north. Wow, okay. And also economic hardship more pronounced in the north, say the governors. We can also find here federal government advised to review policies as massive job loss looms. Also this morning, citizens shouldn't die before benefits are seen. Sani tells President Tinubu how judiciary can be independent by CJN Kekereko. Tinubu unveils National Lottery Trust Fund 4-year master plan. And also police grill rep mascot Ikweje, I think it's pronounced, captured assaulting Bolt driver. Constitution review, we're working on reserving seats. Joint ticket for women, says Speaker. Those are the big stories on the Daily Independent newspapers this morning.
All right, on the next paper this morning, we have the Punch newspaper. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, no work, no pay dispute. Federal government invites unions as strike grounds varsities. SSANU, NASU leaders enforce strike across varsities. NANS asks federal government to resolve crisis. North blackout. 19 governors meet. President deploys troops against vandals. Northern governors oppose Tinubu's planned tax reform. Students reject FCET's 10,000 naira fine for violent protest. Ghana eyes fuel imports from Dangote refinery. At the top of the paper, we have FCT issues Tinubu, Akume, ex-governors 2-week ultimatum. And we have the federal records here. Federal government needs 19 trillion naira to complete 2,604 roads, according to Dave Umahi, who has been in the eye of the storm lately. But let's start with the North blackout. 19 governors meet. President deploys troops against vandals. Earlier in the papers, I think it was on the Leadership, I had read the headline that said the presidency instructs there to be light. You know, he said, let there be light, and we don't know if there will be light yet. But there have also been those who think and those who say that the blackout in the north is as a result of some form of, they're inferring that it's as a result of some form of intentional action to stifle growth in the region. So here in Lagos, a number of us have experienced it, but I don't know that we get that kind of reaction as well. But let's talk about the blackout and why it's such a big story, you know, recurring in the papers.
Well, it is such a big story because the 19 northern governors have decided to make it look as if it's an exclusive northern problem. It is not. It's a national problem. The national grid has collapsed hundreds of times in the last how many years? So it is not anything new. President Tinubu decreeing that let there be light, and I think the Minister of Power, Adelabu, said it will be restored in 5 days. I don't know the magic they are going to use now to do that, which they have failed to apply all these years. But the truth of the matter is that, look, it all boils down to what we say here every day. Power should be decentralized. This issue of having national grid is not working. There should be a mix of power, energy sources, and states should be allowed to generate and distribute power on their own. This issue of everything being controlled from the center cannot work, and it won't work. And as long as we continue to say national grid, this, that, look, the infrastructure we have in power, unfortunately, despite all the investments we've been making as a country in the last 25 years, nothing has come through. Look at the issue of, we are still generating about 5,000 megawatts in a country of over 200 million people. South Africa, that has a population of less than 60 million people, generate over 40,000 megawatts. Egypt does. And all the three countries that have now overtaken Nigeria in terms of GDP are doing far in excess in terms of power generation. And we cannot make any progress whatsoever as long as we don't get the power right. Because everything revolves around power. The energy security that we need in this country, we must have it, otherwise there will be no industrialization. So the northern governors coming together to say it is a sabotage. Who is sabotaging who? What we understand has led to this thing is that the bandits attacked the power infrastructure. Is it anybody that sent the bandits to go and attack the power infrastructure? In any case, Olive, look, let us be realistic in this country. It is easy to apportion blames. Nigeria became independent in 1960, October 1st, 1960. Between 1960 and now, how many years? 64 years down the road, the North has been in power predominantly. So what have they done with the power that they wielded over and above all of us all these years? What did they do? President Muhammadu Buhari was in office for 8 years. What did he do to make life better for the people in the North? We still, all the indices of development that have gone south, go and check. The North is the main reason why Nigeria continues to plumb the depths of misery. So let them look inwards. The issue of Amajiris, like the Sultan told them in Kaduna, is it also sabotage? Who is sabotaging them? What are the leaders what are the 19 state governors from the North? What are they doing?
Well, they've also complained about the tax, the new tax bill, and how it is against the North as well. It's one of the things we're going to be talking about later as well. Their complaint, is that the way it is structured, saying that businesses should pay taxes from where their headquarters are located, that is not going to be favorable to Northern Nigeria.
I would have been surprised if they didn't raise that issue. But they have been spoon-fed for so long. They have been spoon-fed for so long. Look, what they are complaining about is the new in the tax reform bill that President Bola Tinubu presented to the National Assembly. What they are complaining of is that the provision that VAT should no longer be shared, that in fact should be shared based on derivation.
Yeah.
So if well over 60 or 70% of money collected as VAT is sourced from Lagos. Why would a state like Kenya that continues to destroy alcoholic beverages, that their Sharia police, Hizbah, continues to wreak havoc on people who are doing legitimate businesses? There is no law in Nigeria that prohibits alcohol. The Constitution, which is the ground norm of this country, does not say you can't do your business. Yet these guys, with every amount of impunity, go out there, raid people's shops and businesses and destroy goods worth millions of naira. And yet, the same alcohol you say you don't want, the VAT paid on alcohol, you want to share. No, now. Look, Nigeria is not working. Nigeria is not working and cannot work as long as we continue on this trajectory that all of us have been put in. This is why people are arguing that let's go back to regionalism so that people can work on their comparative advantages. People can develop at their own pace. It favors everybody. Nigeria, I am sorry to say, even at the risk of sounding alarmist, Nigeria cannot make progress structured the way it is structured. It can't, because we will have people continue to drag us down. If people collect their taxes and then remit something to the federal purse, every state has what it takes
to make its own money and
to
develop its own
some money. There is no state in this country that, if the leaders are thinking, that cannot develop on its own.
All right. So because of time, let's quickly go into talking about our famous lawmaker mascot, Ikweche, from from Aba North and South in the House of Assembly. Of course, he's a member of ABGA, just to be clear. And of course, his sudden interest in snail and love for snail, that got him, super violent. I was saying earlier that I thought it was going to be abacha or uba, but I didn't know snail was such a delicacy in Aba North. Well fried and sauced with onions and fresh pepper.
Wow. All right.
So let's talk about
Well, again, why should anybody be surprised at what mascot did? Leadership in this country is not about service. It's about showing, like he asked the Uber driver, do you know
who I am?
Who I am? That's it. Go and bring the Inspector General of Police. Even when he knew he was being filmed.
I think that's the most alarming part, the fact that he knew he was being filmed and yet he kept talking.
He said, go ahead. Go ahead. It's the impunity that works on all fours in this country. And we continue to work on all fours as long as we elevate our leaders, so-called leaders, into pantheon of gods who can do no wrong. You see, a man, in those days that people used to travel by 9 bus, who travels by 9 bus with you, all of a sudden he starts carrying bag for a godfather, and he becomes a governor, and he becomes a god. Look, I go back to this River State and the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. I can't stop talking about him. Nyesom Wike came out of law school in 1998. So the first job, per se, if we discountenance what elder statesman Edwin Clark said, that he was, as a lawyer, he worked with the park, the motor park in River State. Even if we remove that, The first major job that Nyesom Wike did was being chairman of Obiakpo local government in 1999. He has not done any other thing all his life. From being chairman of Obiakpo, he became chief of staff to Governor Rotimi Amechi. From that, he was seconded to Abuja as Minister of State for Education. He came back, became governor, and is now. And all of a sudden, in a space of 24 years, Nyesom Wike has become the biggest thing that ever happened to Rivers State. Who does that? In any other country, where probity and accountability are the watchwords, people should be asking questions. How did somebody who never did any other thing apart from being in government make so much money? Where did this money come from? So it is that same sense of entitlement that pushed Mascot Ikweche to this mess he's in now. Why beat a fellow citizen for demanding to be paid for services he has rendered to you? You hired him. He couldn't have done the delivery for free. So why beat him? Why not pay him? But he feels he's a big man. The mentality of the Nigerian big man, a member of the House of Representatives, an honorable member.
Yeah.
How dare an Uber driver demand for his wages to be paid for services he has effectively rendered? There is something fundamentally wrong with our psyche, the value system. In fact, there are people. My mentor, Dr. Omar Elazo, even Dr. Christopher Kolade, believe that the main problem we have in this country is not even this issue of constitution, it's the value reorientation.
Right.
We need to get the values right. Our value system has gone to the dogs. And as long as we continue on that trajectory of basically no values, we can't get it right. It is, if a man has values of respect, of integrity, of honor, he wouldn't do what Mascot did.
I agree with you. So what would you say are your expectations regarding how the Mascot case is handled? Because there's also been an implication on the part of the Nigerian police. You remember in the video when he made reference to the police, even at some point saying that I won't even ask my policemen to beat you, I'll beat you myself and put you in the generator house. There was a subsequent video where the young man, the taxi driver, Mr. Stephen, had said that the police did not invite Mascot to the police station, that they went to carry out the investigation in his house. It was later on he drove down to the police station and continued his reign of insult. So how do you foresee that this will play out? Is it a surefire way for him to self-destruct his political career? Do you see charges being leveled against him? Do you see him being made to go to court? Or is this just one of the things where we'll make a lot of noise? After 1 week, 2 weeks, it will Elisha our boy away?
Well, it may happen that they will use him to set example. Because of the impact of the social media, everybody is out there now. People are aware of what he did. He may suffer for his...
It depends on what you call suffer, though, because, I mean, it's not, we don't have any precedents to lean towards. But hold
Absolutely.
on. Good morning, Uche. Uche from Abia, good morning. Can you hear us?
I'm hearing you.
Go ahead quickly.
Go ahead, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for having me. The problem we're having in this country is that we have different laws to different people. The former CCT chairman, is he former or is he present? Uma acted his own part in is it bookshop or whatever you call the place. His security people beat that guy, the security guy there. The man told him to just park your car in order. Because he's a high-profile person, he started harassing the man. What happened? Even the Abu you mentioned, what happened? If you have one law in this country for everybody, both rich and poor, this country will work. But we don't have it. The judiciary is not helping matter. Even the police that you invited the man is not helping matter. If you see how some military officials are treating civilians, you will cry in this country. The same police too, they behave the same way. We don't have law for everybody in this country. God bless you people.
Yeah, and that was actually the point I was trying to make. When I say he's going to suffer, I don't mean it in the sense that he's being punished for a crime he did not commit. It's on video, and he did not
deny it either.
Deny it. The point I was trying to make is that because of the interest that this particular incident has generated, he may be used as a scapegoat just to show that police do their work. But like the Uche who just called, you know, it is because of the impunity that we've allowed to reign for too long in this country. The case that he mentioned, the Senator Abo that went to a pawn shop to beat a lady, what has come out of all those cases? We have, I said, we elevate mere mortals to gods because they occupy positions which ought to be leadership positions where they ought to serve the people.
Yeah.
But in Nigeria, anybody who becomes even a councillor of a local government starts answering honorable, and he is above the law. The local government chairman is above the law. A state governor is a god. Then a president does no wrong. We've had countries that have tried and imprisoned their leaders, former leaders. Even the man who is contesting the presidency of America was convicted. 34 counts. He is a felon. But in Nigeria, immediately you become a president. In fact,
lifetime immunity, actually.
If you like, pick up a gun, like former governor of Rivers State will say, execute 20 people on the streets, and nobody will raise a whimper. In fact, if you talk, there are some people who will challenge you. You have no respect for leaders. Yeah. How do you respect people who don't respect themselves?
I've also seen, you know, people, I spoke about it this morning, that there's already a social media whitewashing campaign going on for mascot, you know, Ikweche, you know, and people saying that, oh, Yoruba people normally would take sides with their own. You know, why are Igbo people coming out to condemn, you know, their fellow brother mascot for this slight mistake that he made? You know, because he's the most active House of Rep member, you know, in Abia State, even if there's no bill, you know, that.
Again, these are the problems that confront us as a people, as a nation. I don't know how to get away with it. My thief is better than your thief. My thief. Why should the armed robber from my place go to jail when the armed robber from your place has not been sent to jail? Right. So those who are saying, but it is not in the character of the Igbo man to share it.
Very true.
All right. Let's quickly take this call from Chinemerem. Good morning, Chinemerem. Thank you very much for calling from Imo. Please go ahead. Oh, unfortunately, we lost that call.
So nobody is going to shield mascot from, if he has committed a crime, he should face the time. Whatever it is, that is the punishment. I saw something a governor sent to me last night as a statement of apology that Mascot issued. It wasn't signed by him, it was signed by someone else, but of course written on his behalf, apologizing to Nigerians to please forgive his indiscretion, forgive him for whatever offense he had.
I'm glad that, I haven't seen that, and I don't think that apology, I believe that many Nigerians know that apology doesn't count. If he wants to apologize, and apology will not take away the fact that a crime was committed, but he would have to, in the same way he audaciously spoke to the camera, telling us his name and saying they should go and call the IGP, he will stand in front of the camera too and apologize to Nigerians. But that's another, conversation for another day. Even though the apologies won't really change much. But we need to be able to set deterrents to ensure that things like this don't happen. If not, people in power will continue to abuse power. Every day, you give them small opportunity, they get mopo, get extra vehicle. When you are driving on the road, their mopo will have koboko to whip you if you in any way come close to you.
Push you out of the road. Even when you enjoy yourself in the process, they don't care. They don't care.
Everybody knows that the worst thing to do is to try to get close to any of those convoy vehicles. You're really setting up your car for destruction. Thank you, Kechukwu Amechi, for joining us.
Always my pleasure.
All right, more conversations this morning. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we have more conversations to look at. We'll also be exploring this much later today, taking some of your reactions on X regarding the story of Mascot and the taxi driver. Stay with us. Today, we take a look at a disturbing incident that has gone viral and sparked outrage across the nation. And this is, of course, the confrontation between the House of Representatives member, Alex Mascot Ikweche, and the taxi driver, Mr. Stephen Abuaseya. In a shocking video that has captured the attention of many, Ikweche is seen slapping Mr. Abuaseya and making threats that send chills down the spine. Phrases like, "Do you know who I am? I can make you disappear in this Nigeria and nothing will happen. I won't ask my policemen to beat you. I'll beat you myself and lock you in my generator house." Statements like these illustrate a troubling abuse of power that many find unacceptable. Such behavior, especially from a public official, raises serious questions about accountability and respect for the law. In a subsequent video, Mr. Abuaseya recounts his harrowing experience at the police station, where he was detained for 2 hours, made to write a statement, and at the time of the video, his car was still held by the police. He described how police officers visited Ikweche at his home for an investigation, only to have the politician drive in later into the police station by himself and continuing his insults and threats. The public's reaction has been swift and furious, and Nigerians are taking to social media to express their outrage, calling for justice and demanding that the police be held accountable for their handling of the situation. Critics argue that the police's response reflects a systemic failure to protect citizens from the very individuals sworn to serve and represent them. Now let's examine the voices of a nation that's demanding respect, accountability, and justice. And our first tweet, of course, will be the reaction of the police via their official handle on X. The Nigerian Police Force is aware of the incident between a Bolt driver, Mr. Stephen Abuaseya, and Honorable Alexander which took place on October 27, 2024 in Maitama, Abuja. The FCT command is actively handling the case following Mr. Boashia's official report at the Maitama Divisional Headquarters. The police force also urges the public to refrain from using the name of the Office of the Inspector General of Police to intimidate others, as such actions undermine the values of impartiality that the IGP's office upholds. And that's from the official handle of the Nigerian Police Force. Harrison Gwamnishu also has a reaction to this. He says, "You assaulted a man, intimidated him to report to whoever, and even said he should take you to Inspector General of Police, that nothing will happen. You went further to bundle him to a police station and accused him of coming into your premises to attack you. Representative Ndimo, he must be brought to justice." And Sachuks then also responds to this saying, "If the Honorable House of Representatives member Alex Ifeanyi Mascot Ikweche is not arrested, put behind bars, or pay damages to the Abuja driver, then expect more from such people like him." Sean Klein also has a reaction to this, and he says, "Even if he sues for assault, as a member of House of Representatives, I don't think the Nigerian police will do justice to this case. I strongly doubt the outcome favoring that Uber driver. Do you know why? Because he's a nobody. Just watch how the matter will be swept under the carpet." We have another tweet from Twitter who says, "Charge him to court immediately. He needs to pay for the assault. The House of Representatives need to suspend him. Lawmaker and lawbreaker in one person." Olorogun also has a response. He says, "A House of Rep member or senator does not have immunity and can be arrested just the way the Nigerian police would arrest any common man. There was a proven physical assault on the delivery guy, which automatically calls for a criminal arrest." And the final tweet this morning is from Adebisi. Adebisi says, "Most of the people that are always critical of the president are worse than people in government. Many people act sanctimonious while out of government. Give them small power, and they will turn to be a demigod, and worse. I will not allow anyone bully me," Adebisi says. The audacity to make those threats and even call his name knowing he was filmed is one audacity that needs to be studied. They say that whom the gods want to destroy, they first make mad, or in some cases, they first make lack reason. Well, Nigerian police, over to you.
Welcome back. The 19 state governors in the northern region have aired their strong displeasure on the recent tax reform bill the federal government submitted to the National Assembly for approval. Specifically, the governors opposed the proposed shift to a derivation-based model for value-added tax distribution, claiming this model will put northern states and other less industrial regions at a disadvantage.
The governors under the Northern States Governors Forum made their opposition clear in a communique after a strategic meeting in Kaduna. They demand equity and fairness in national policy implementation and emphasize that no geopolitical zone should be shortchanged. This comes after President Bola Tinubu submitted 4 tax reform bills to the National Assembly for consideration earlier on in October. We're joined this morning by the derivation. This morning, we're joined by our guests who will be sharing with us exactly what the situation is. Please welcome with us Shehu Madi as he explores this conversation. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
All right. So let's get your thoughts, first of all, the northern governors thinking about how exactly this is shortchanging the North. Do you agree with that standpoint, or is there something really to be concerned about?
Well, I am surprised that the governors have just woken up from their sleep and slumber because money is involved. But where have they been since when the North is being decimated? Where have they been since when the entire northern economy has been reduced into lumps? Where have they been with over 50 million children out of school? Where have they been with the collapse of infrastructures? Where have they been with the collapse of education and the health sector? They now have a voice because money is involved. The moment the bill is passed into law, it means they are going to be denied that chunk of money being given to them. Now, that being aside, I am not surprised that Bola Tinubu is doing what he is doing. Why? Because it is documented the record that he openly said it as part of his campaign promise. He is fulfilling his campaign promise that he's going to restrict your purchasing power. And Nigerians were so carried away by sentiment, blind sentiment, and by ignorance, that they never gave that particular statement a real understanding. Now he is actualizing and practicalizing, restricting the income of people. Now, it is sad. Whoever are giving him this advice, whoever they are, they should know that they are being ungodly. They are being inhuman and sadistic. When you are reviewing the value-added tax sharing formula, you are being naive and uneducated for the following reasons. Number one, VAT is about consumption. Taxes being added at every level of consumption. Consumption drives itself out from production. Production is a continuous process. Now, who are the consumers? If you take Liver Brothers who are producing Omo, they are producing Omo where? In Lagos. But in every part of this country, Omo is being purchased for purposes. Pick Dangote's Indomie, pick Dangote's spaghetti, take his macaroni. It is being produced at a particular location, but being consumed everywhere. When Dangote is paying his own VAT, he is paying his VAT in Lagos. But the consumers, millions of them are not in Lagos. Now, out of insensitivity, Tinubu is saying that, okay, the places where these taxes are being paid will take chunk of the VAT, and the others will take the crumb. That is insensitive, that is ungodly, that is sadistic, and that is why there are more fools and there are more tribalists in Nigeria today. And that is why you have less of citizens. How do you create fools? Fools, and who are even fools? It is leaders who create fools. Who are fools? Fools are those people across all the Nigeria, across the entire world, across region and religion, who only think about themselves.
Madishe, hold on.
About themselves, and who plan for themselves.
Hold on. Can we focus? Can you hold on? Can we focus on what exactly is ungodly about the president saying, you know, that this tax reform will make, you know, the regions that have these industries to benefit more from the taxation than those who do not, you know, of course, who have less of the industries? What exactly is ungodly about that?
Being inequitable, being unjust, being unfair is being ungodly. This is what is exactly happening now. He is trying to pauperize the entire country. He is trying to pauperize the entire north because he knows there is no production activity in the north, or there is minor activities in the north. But you know there is maximum consumption in the north. We have more population consuming what is produced in Lagos, in Aba, in Port Harcourt than in any other part of the country.
Yeah, but can't those in the south, can't the people in Lagos say that it is unfair? That they suffer the brunt of the production? These factories are located in, we'll use Lagos for example, in Ekpe now where the Dangote refinery will be located, you know, there might be some environmental issues over there as well. So can the people in the southern part say that, well, it's unfair to us, that we bear the brunt of production?
They also destroy our, if Dangote is transporting his oil to the north, his trucks are destroying the entire northern roads.
Same with the rest of the country.
If Liver Brothers are transporting their product to the north, their trucks destroy the entire northern roads.
But again, same with the rest of the country. The trucks pass through every part of the country.
No. It takes two to tango. Whatever items are being produced in the east, in the south, being transported to the north, they also have their ecological and environmental impact on the north. So you cannot just have one as a cake and one as a powder. You cannot make fish of one and fowl of the other. You cannot. You have an option.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to talk about this tax reform bill and what the implications might be. But I want us to also talk about another issue where we've seen that those in the north have argued that the current power outage is sabotage, is intentionally targeted at the north to stifle growth. Do you agree with this position as well?
Well, whether a sabotage or not, whether deliberate or not, whether foreseen or not, it is clear that we don't have government in place. It means there are people who are still aggrieved. Whoever are the people responsible for this outage must be people who are aggrieved, who are not comfortable with the way and manner we are being mismanaged. We are not being managed. We are being sufficiently mismanaged in an industrial scale under the government of Bola Tinubu and APC. I don't see it as sabotage. I see it as a failure of governance, failure of security, failure of managing people and their own resources. Assuming it is sabotage, congratulations to the saboteurs. Now that we have no light, we have no water, there is nothing, we have no money in the north. Yet we are still surviving. Many are dying every day. But in the manner we are dying, so shall other people die. In the manner we are being pauperized, some people are going to be pauperized. It's just a cycle from God. We are waiting for God to act in his best way, at his own chosen time. For those people who are subjecting millions of people to suffering, they will see suffering. They will see disease. They will see decay. They will see delay. Because this is man's inhumanity to man.
Yeah. Marishe, so back to the VAT conversation. So,
yes,
shouldn't this be a time of motivation for northern governors and rulers in the north to figure out ways with which they can become more industrialized and generate better IGR for their states? Because what it seems, and the argument really is that these governors, I think you started with that, and I think I'll give that to you. You started with it. These governors have really just sat down there as governors for decades without necessarily contributing any bits of industrialization to northern Nigeria. And so the argument has always been that they are benefiting from the toiling that goes on in the southern part of the country, and at some point they need to wake up. And so are they saying now that they like the system that way? They don't necessarily need to industrialize. They don't need to go back to having the pyramids of, granite pyramids that used to be in the north, or the textile industries that used to be in the north. They don't care about that. They just want the status quo to continue, where tax is shared equally, including tax from alcohol, where people have pointed out that you don't consume alcohol in northern Nigeria, but the taxation gets all the way to the north.
Okay, let me just give a rider. The rider is that part of the bill that was submitted by Tinubu is also seeking to centralize the collection of all government revenues. Into what? Into one single entity, the Revenue Service Commission. In other words, that is the reason why virtually 70% of the operation of FIS has now been relocated to Lagos, because that is where taxpayers are paying tax. Now, that is going to create an imbalance in the number of people being employed. Many are going to lose their jobs because nobody is going to collect any tax anymore, the VAT, in the north and other taxes. As what we are talking now, as at now, there are more than 79 types of taxes being collected. Of those taxes, except pay as you earn that is being collected in every state, the remaining are virtually being collected either in Abuja or in Lagos. Now back to the governors. I agree with you, absolutely, completely and totally, that over the last many years, over the last decades, they were just relying on the revenue that they collect from the Federation account, live high on it, comfortable on it, spend it in the manner they want, because without being asked any question. Anybody who asks a question is an enemy. But then that is up to the northern voters. It is the naivety and the docility of the northern voters that make them continue voting people continuously, voting them as governors, voting them as ministers, voting them as senators, voting them as members, and queuing out their houses to collect handouts from the money meant for their own development. Therefore, the North have an option. Northern voters have an option to inquire, to query, to insist that anybody aspiring to preside over them must give them a plan, development plan, industrialization plan. Short of that, we will continue being beggars for the rest of our lives.
All right, as quickly as you can, how do you foresee that this ends, this derivation-based model of VAT that the northern governors are kicking against? If it goes through, how do you foresee that this all ends?
And let me tell you, if care is not taken, it's going to be the fastest bill that will be passed into law. The fastest, for two reasons. Number one, the governors are asking the National Assembly members to oppose the bill. But 90% of National Assembly members are not in good terms with their governors. Governor sees a senator as an enemy because he's a potential governor. Every senator is a potential governor. Therefore, governors sees senators or House members that are popular as potential governors. Therefore, they will never bring them closer. They are now asking them to do a job because it's going to affect the revenue that is coming into the state. Number two, if the governors think that their cry will be listened by Tinubu, they are mistaken. Members will collect money. Majority of them has a price tag. And Tinubu understands very well that money is important to most of members of the National Assembly. Some of them are there, they never mention any bill. They never make any contribution to a single debate, but they are there busy becoming kingmakers. They are there becoming a cartel, a cabal, a clique that distribute money. Therefore, money will be distributed. This bill will be passed into law. The governors may go to court. They will end up losing in courts.
All right.
You caught me any day. This was going to happen.
All right. Madi Shehu, thanks for joining us this morning. I think the important parts of the conversation, have been mentioned. The need for northern leadership to wake up. I remember that the Buhari administration was called out back then for their fake rice pyramids, where they set up, rice pyramids, and then eventually it turned out that it was all just, space. But thanks very much. We look forward to speaking with you again. Thanks for your time. And that's Tuesday morning's edition of Breakfast Central. We hope you enjoyed the conversations that we have. Thanks to those on YouTube as well. I saw a few comments over there. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. We'll be back here again tomorrow morning on Breakfast Central. I am Osaogie Ogbawa.
And I am Olive Emodi. I'll see you tomorrow.